the iFro K100 NAS. I was sent this by iFro to review, and I've been using it for about a month now, and I wanted to give my feedback on it now. I think after about a month's worth of use, I think it's time that I can give a good, fair opinion on my thoughts on this All-SSD NAS. So first off, let's talk about what is it? So what you can see here is the iFro K100 NAS. Now, it is, like I just mentioned before, an all-SSD NAS. Now, what does that mean? So this here, in this small little package here, you get 4 slots inside that you can put 4 M2 SSDs into it. And it doesn't come with any operating system or anything like that. You can install, any sort of NAS software that you want or however you want to use it. I installed Unraid on it, and I've been using Unraid on it for about a month, just testing it. I have another NAS, one that I built using the Zimmer board blade, and that's connected with 2 hard drives, and that thing works perfectly. So I've had a bit of a fair share of playing around with Unraid and DIY NASs. Now, I wouldn't call this a DIY NAS. Well, it kind of is, because what they're doing is they're providing you with the hardware, and then you're doing everything else. So what we'll do is we'll cover the specs, what's in this box, and then I'll give you my honest opinion on how I see this fitting in my home lab, or even if it's going to find a place in there at all. So iFro sell this for $450 American USD, and I think they've got a sale on at the moment. I think it was about 25% off, but let's just talk about the base price of it at USD $450. Now, that comes with the box itself, right? And it comes with 256 gig of storage already, but then of course you can upgrade all of that. Now, it can hold a maximum of 16 terabytes of storage. Now, depending on your NAS, that's either more than enough or not enough, because NAS space requirements vary for every sort of user, right? Now, here are the stats here for the specs. It comes with an Intel N100. It's got, just typical Intel integrated graphics. It's got 8 gig of DDR5 memory. It's got, like I mentioned before, 4 SSD slots for the M2 PCIe Gen 3s. It's got 2 USB ports on the back, and it's got one Ethernet port you can see there, and it's also got HDMI. Now, like I mentioned before, it doesn't come with an operating system or anything like that. You're essentially paying $450 for the hardware, and then you have to go out and buy the NAS, the SSD storage, and then you have to put the operating system on there yourself as well. If you want to go Unraid, you got to pay for that, but there's a bunch of open source free alternatives out there as well that you can chuck on this as well. Now, how does this compare to my other NASs that I have? So I've got my Synology NAS. I can't exactly bring that here because it's right over there. I've made a video on it. You can go check out that video on my Synology NAS. And you can also check out the video that I did for my Zimmer Blade NAS as well. So I've played around with them a bit. So how does this compare? Now, to me, if I'm being honest, this just feels like a NUC. When I say a NUC, it's just like a small computer, right? The computers, you plug an HDMI port in it, you put your operating system on it, and you just use it as a day-to-day computer. The only thing that sets this apart from a typical NUC is the storage capability that you can put in this. It's got 4 SSD slots, right? So now when you look at another NAS, there's a bunch of features like my Synology NAS. It has hot swappable drives. I can easily pull out a drive, just open up the front and swap the drives. With this here, the drives are sitting right under the shell, and to get into them, do you see these rubber feet? I have to pull these rubber feet off. You actually, they don't just come off either, but if I think I can get a finger in there, I should be able to pull them out. So that just comes off just like that. And if you can see, there is a screw under there, and I have to take the rest of the feet off, and then you can unscrew this to get to the board to put the SSDs in. Right, so here it is here. So this is the underside, and I need to pull off the rest of these feet. Now, they're actually a bit of a pain, so unless you have nails and get under there, you're gonna have to use something else. So I'm just gonna use a small little jeweler's screwdriver just to pull these up, and I just don't wanna actually break the plastic. Wait, so the feet off, so I'm just gonna open this up really quick, and then I'll show you the inside. Okay, now that I'm inside, there's actually one, 2, 3, 4 more screws to get into, right? Now, for a NAS that's supposed to, they're not meant to be super easy to get into the storage, but this just feels like I'm opening up a typical NUC. This feels like it wasn't really made for the storage to be added and changed. And obviously you don't do that often with a NAS, but you do it more often than not compared to a typical computer. Right, so I've pulled the screws off, and now if we open it up here, you can now see where the SSD storage goes. So we've already got one in place, as you can see here, and this is the factory one that comes with 256 gig worth of storage. If I flip it this way, you can kind of see it better, and now we can add, you know, 3 more drives in here, or you'll probably want to replace that and put more storage in there. But what I'm getting at here is that this doesn't feel like a NAS, really. Like, it's definitely a good NUC that has a lot of storage capability, but I don't believe it's like a real sort of NAS. Another reason for that is if you want like a good, like if you see NASs on the market, they will have an additional Ethernet port here for redundancy, so if anything ever goes down. Now again, this is good for home labbing, but let me quickly put this back together and just give you my full opinion on why I don't really see why someone will go with this compared to an alternative. So like I mentioned before, it's awesome, okay? It's a cool little NAS. I would call it more of a NUC that can have a bunch of storage up to about 16 terabytes worth of storage. Now, the main factor here that anyone's going to talk about is the price, right? So nearly 500 American dollars, you're getting this, right? But if you're wanting a NAS and you're wanting an all SSD NAS, what are your options out there? You can go get a Raspberry Pi 5 with the exact same amount of storage for, I believe, about an 80 USD. Now, I was doing a bit of a conversion here. I think they're about 130 New Zealand dollars. And then that's just the board, right? You've paid $80 there just for the board. Now, you can go out and buy a storage hat for the Raspberry Pi and just make your own NAS. Plug in a bunch of drives, and you could do probably all of that, you know, buying all the storage that you need for a maximum, I would say, 200 American dollars. You could probably do it for a lot cheaper than that. And then you've got to buy all the storage. So remember, this doesn't come with storage. It comes with 256 gig worth of storage, but you can go out and buy a bunch of storage for a Raspberry Pi. And I don't think it'll be fair to include that because you're going to have to buy storage for this anyways. So at that point, there's no point comparing those. We're talking about the base price here. You could go out and get pretty much the exact same to accomplish your needs for the exact same for about half the price. So this here, I would say, is a great Homelab server. Okay, this is great for a bunch of storage, for running Docker on, for self-hosting some things, and just playing around and whatnot like that, right? As a dedicated NAS, it still works, right? This is still a great dedicated NAS, but for the price, there's probably better alternatives out there. Now, when it comes to sitting in my home lab, where do I see it? 100%. This obviously has a place in my home lab. I'm going to install more SSDs in it because it makes sense, right? And then I'm going to continue to run Unraid, which is what I've been already running on it, and it's going to run Docker containers. It's going to use for sandboxing and playing around with stuff, and then I know that I've got a bunch of storage on here as well if I need it. So definitely does have a home in my home lab. Would I have purchased it myself? Most likely not, because that price for nearly 500 American dollars, that's double the price of my main home lab that I got. So yeah, to be fair, in my opinion, it's a little bit expensive, but there's definitely probably, you know, use cases out there and people wanting just a nice, easy, you know, install the operating system, chuck a couple of SSDs in and forget about it, and it looks nice, right? You can't ignore the look of it. It looks really nice, but you can also go get a really nice Raspberry Pi 5 case as well. So that's my review on the K100. Again, I was sent this for free to review. As you can see, there's no bias here. I was sent it for free. I personally wouldn't have purchased it myself, but I do believe it is a neat piece of kit. It's just that when it comes to self-hosting and my audience, I would recommend self-hosting, building your own Raspberry Pi 5, and having fun and tinkering around with hardware, rather than something off the shelf like this. But that's just me. Let me know your thoughts below. Make sure to subscribe. Chuck some comments down below. Was I too harsh on it? How would you use something like this? Let me know, and yeah, we can go from there. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in my next video, where we'll actually start self-hosting some applications and showcasing more of the funness of Docker and whatnot. So I'll see you in the next video. Have a good one. Goodbye.